Hi, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Cédric Marin. I'm an immigration lawyer at Holte Immigration Law, and today, in the first part of our video, we're going to talk about changes to your electronic application for permanent residence. Uh, what can change, how a change is calculated, what is allowed as a change, what's not allowed as a change, and in fact, today we're going to focus on three different aspects. So we're going to focus on changes to family members, proof of funds, language tests, and work experience. So for those of you just joining us, we have a very unique question format. So today we're going to start with a featured question. The featured question is taken from one of the questions that's asked in the link below. So in the comments, there's a link. Feel free to ask us a question for it to be featured on our live Q&As. We spend anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 minutes going into detail into the theme question for the live Q&As. And after, we're actually going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about immigration law trends, what's happening and whatnot, and then we're going to take your questions live. So thank you so much for joining me, and let's get right to the theme question. All right, so you had an application for Express Entry, right? So you've created your profile, you have the CRS points, you have your language scores, you have your educational credential assessment, and you have a CRS score that qualifies for a draw. So for those of you just joining us, let's just go over this very quickly, what I mean by qualifying for a draw. So, oops, I'm on the wrong screen here. All right, so let's talk about qualifying for an express entry draw. So you've created your profile, right? You've answered all your questions, and this is something that we obviously help our clients with, is properly preparing express entry profiles, making sure we have all the supporting documents and everything is valid. Let's take a look here, right? So there was a draw last week. The minimum CRS score was 525, and they took 2,200 individuals, and this right now is happening every 2 weeks. The CRS score is expected to go down. We think it's going to be below 500, possibly towards the end of the year, but we never know what's going to happen. All right, so you have your express entry profile and you receive an invitation to apply, which means that your score was better than 525, for example, 527, 530, and you receive your invitation to apply, and then you complete your electronic application for permanent residence. Now, it's super important that when you do this, you actually provide all the supporting documents for your NOC code, your letters of reference, your proof of funds if required. This is really the only time you get to properly prepare and give all your documents is when you submit the electronic application for permanent residence. All right, so this is where we are. You've submitted your electronic application, your eAPR, and now there's changes happening in your life, right? So you could think, for example, you have a new child, you've just gotten married, right? You're changing jobs, you've stopped working, you've changed countries. These are all things that can happen after an electronic application for permanent residence. And in today's live Q&A, we're going to talk about what you need to do in those different cases. So let's head on over here to IRCC's website. And for those individuals, the DIYers, the individuals that want to do it yourself, here we go. So we're under the operational instructions and guidelines. So I could show you how to get here, but here are all the operational instructions and guidelines. And what happens is IRCC, what they do is they take the law, right? So the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. Oops, there we go. I misspelled it. The IRPA. And so this is the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, and there's also the regulations. And they go through these acts and they create program delivery instructions, and they create also operational instructions for their visa officers. So visa officers, immigration officers use this to understand how to actually apply the law, and this is publicly accessible for individuals. So for individuals who want to read this on your own, you're going to click under the permanent residence programs, and now we're interested in economic classes, right? So we're interested in these express entry federal skilled workers, Canadian experience class. Let's go take a look. Let's head down here. So for today's video, we're going to focus on the federal skilled workers, so individuals who are outside Canada without Canadian education or Canadian work experience. All right, and then let's take a look here. So you're going to be applying on or after January 1st. All right, and here we go. So these are talks about general rules for express entry, the intake, and after assessing the applications. And what we're interested in is this, assessing an application on A11.2. We're also interested in assessing against minimum requirements, so we're going to take a look at that as well. All right, so here we are. So this is IRCC's instructions to immigration officers as to how to process eAPRs under Article 11.2 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, which we can actually go ahead and pull up. So this is 11. Let's go to the next page. 11.2. Now this is a lot of legalese here, right? Like this is can be a little bit difficult to understand when you just read it, and hence for the purpose of this video, we're just going to focus on the operational instructions. But if you want to see how the law is actually applied and what this means and the intricate details, it's very helpful to take a look here at the law. All right, so let's go back here to our express entry assessing an application under A11.2, so Article 11.2, and let's scroll down here at the bottom. All right, so here we have it. So changes in circumstances declared after an eAPR. All right, so it's we can go through this essentially subtitle by subtitle, but when you submit the eAPR, right, as I talked about, you have to provide documents to support the statements, what you created in your express entry profile, right? So this means that your language tests, you must provide your valid language tests. Under the federal skilled workers, you have to provide proof of funds. You have to also provide your educational credential assessment, right, showing that you have the specific degree, and you also need to demonstrate your work experience, that you have 2, 3, 4 years of work experience at a specific NOC, right? And so this is when you submit your eAPR, this is when you will declare all this information. And what's going to happen is they're going to be comparing the information that you provided in your profile to the information in eAPR to ensure that you meet the requirements under Article 11.2. So this means that they're going to be looking at what you provided at the time you created your profile and at the time that they sent you the invitation to apply to make sure, sorry, not the invitation to apply, but when you actually submit your eAPR to make sure that you continue to meet the eligibility requirements. So super important. All right, let's take a look here. So you have a requirement to maintain the MEC. The MEC is the minimum requirements. Where's the acronym here? It's the minimum requirement to, yeah, there we go. Minimum entry criteria. So the minimum entry criteria, right, is the eligibility criteria that you must meet to be eligible to apply for express entry. So here we go. So you must always meet the minimum eligibility criteria throughout your express entry profile. So applicants must meet the MEC to be accepted into express entry pool, must also meet the MEC when they are issued an invitation to apply and when they submit their eAPR. So let's talk about a topic here. Let's talk about our work experience, right? So you can, as we know, for the federal skilled workers under eligibility, there's a work minimum requirements for work experience, and you have to have this within the last 10 years, right? So if you're talking about work experience that you acquired, from 2008 until 2013, right? There is some of that work experience that's over 10 years, which would not be counted for the minimum for the MEC. So this means that maybe when you created your profile, you had the 2, 3, 4 years foreign work experience, but as we've seen here, you have the requirement to meet this requirement also when you got your ITA and when you submit your eAPR. So in this case, right, depending how far the work experience is, it might have expired, right? It might have been valid when you created your profile, but it might have expired by the time you have your ITA or when you submit your eAPR. All right, so this is quite of a unique situation, but you need to keep this in mind. This also applies, for example, for settlement funds, right? You need to prove, depending on your family size, that you have a certain amount of money to support yourself in Canada, and this has to be from the moment you create your express entry profile to the ITA to your invitation to apply to the electronic application for permanent residence. You must continue to meet the minimum requirement, right? And if we take a look down, it's going to talk about proof of funds, and so you need to meet this throughout the way. So these are the minimum requirements that you must meet throughout your express entry journey, if you will. All right, so pretty simple so far. Let's continue down here. So requirement to maintain a CRS score. In here, it's going to talk about how the score is generated, and this requirement to continue to meet the CRS score also at the time that you get your profile, the ITA, and the invitation to apply. All right, let's continue scrolling down. And now we're talking about changes. Oh, so here's an exception. So if you have your birthday between the invitation to apply and your eAPR, they're not going to deduct you points if you've already received your ITA. So this is quite interesting. This is kind of the only exceptions when it relates to ITA and eAPR. All right, let's continue scrolling down. Misrepresentation. So you obviously have to make sure that everything in your profile, right? When you created your profile, when you submit your ITA, and you submit your electronic application for permanent residence, everything has to be accurate. And here we get down to changes in circumstances declared after an eAPR has been submitted. So this talks about essentially that when an applicant's profile at the time of their on invitation, the information provided and submits their eAPR. So after the eAPR is submitted, an application cannot be refused due to a change in circumstances. So this is really important, right? So you can't be refused unless, right? So one of two things here. The first requirement is that a change occurred before the applicant submitted their eAPR. This is really, really important. So listen carefully. If you have, for example, if you were married and then you submit your express entry profile, but you say you're single, you have your ITA, you say you're single, you have your eAPR, and you still say you're single, and then you get then you submit your eAPR, and you update your express entry profile saying, oh, by the way, I was married in 2015, right? That is going to be a change that occurred before the eAPR that should have been disclosed, and in this case, they would be allowed to reassess your case and up to a refusal because the change in circumstance occurred before you submit your eAPR. The same thing can happen for job opportunities, for your current job. You create your express entry profile under a specific NOC, right? You have your 2 or 3 year experience, and then you change jobs, but you did not update your express entry profile, right? You got your ITA, you continue to state that you had the old job, but you don't declare the new one. And again, this is a change that occurred before the eAPR. In most cases, here we're talking about the federal skilled workers. In most cases, under the federal skilled workers, if you already have that 1 year minimum of foreign work experience, you might continue to be eligible, but this could be a change that occurred before you submitted your eAPR, and it's something that the immigration officers are allowed to reassess, right? If there's a change in, so this is the second criteria, if the change of circumstance means that the applicant no longer meets the minimum requirements of the program. So this is really important, and this deals with proof of funds, right? So we talked about the eligibility for the proof of funds for the federal skilled workers, and if we take a look here at the table, we can see that depending on how many family members you have, you need to have a certain amount of money. So a family of 4 need to have $24,733, right? And so this is the very minimum you need. And if we go back here to the change of circumstances, right? So if you fall below the $23,000 or $24,000, this is a change of circumstance, which means that you no longer meet the minimum requirements of the program. This is super important. And what you're going to see repeatedly is you're going to have immigration officers who are going to be asking you to provide updated proof of updated proof of settlement funds. And the reason why is because you need to continue to meet the minimum eligibility until a decision is made, right? Because it deals with the eligibility part. So any change that deals with the eligibility part, if you fail to maintain this, it could lead to your application being refused. So this is quite interesting. So now I'm talking about family composition. So here talks about marriage, gives an example of a marriage, right? So if you submit your eAPR, this is exactly what I was talking about. If the applicant marries before they submit their eAPR, but informs IRCC of the marriage only after their eAPR, the marriage cannot take place. The marriage can be taken into account as part of an assessment under Article 11.2. So this is really important, right? So the idea is that when you submit your eAPR, everything is up to date, right? You've your work experience, your family composition, your children, your wife, your settlement funds, and then it locks in, right? It locks in, and only changes that occurred before the applicant submitted their APR, or changes that could say that you no longer meet the minimum requirements of the program, can lead to a refusal. So this means that, for example, if you're working in a job for 3 years and after EAPR you change jobs or you stop working, right? It does not change the minimum eligibility. It occurred after you submitted your EAPR. It cannot be taken into account for your EAPR, right? So this is one example. A second example would be if you were to get married after, right? You submit your EAPR. This change in circumstance and getting married does not affect your minimum eligibility requirement, right? So here we're talking about proof of funds. So if you get married after your EAPR, right, you still need to meet the proof of funds, which is actually going to increase. So you're single, you provide proof that you have 14, 15,000. Now you're married, right? That's fine. You're allowed to get married after EAPR. They're not gonna be taking off points for your CRS score. They're not going to be reassessing your CRS score, but you need to continue to meet the minimum eligibility requirement. And now this changes to 16,000. So when you get married, you're going to have to provide more proof of funds. Those are two examples. The first one with the work experience, the second one to do with the marriage, and the same thing would happen for a child. You have a child, right? Your proof of funds would actually increase as well to 20,371. So they're not going to reevaluate your CRS score. They're not going to reject your application unless you can't provide for the minimum eligibility, for the minimum program eligibility. So there we have it. Changes to family composition, right? So you do need to update your electronic application permanent residence. You do need to submit a form. Your family members need to, here's the form down here. Your family members must be examined. So when you get after the APR, you must update by web form. You update IRCC and say, oh, hey, after my APR on this date, I have been married. Here is my new spouse. You provide the form, and they're going to have to do their medical tests, right? They're going to have to be examined by immigration authorities, whether or not they're coming with you. And this is super important, right? So you get married, you're going to come to Canada, but your wife wants to stay inside of their country for the next year or two for whatever reason. They still need to be declared on the APR. They still need to do their medical examination. They still need to do their police certificates and whatnot. They must be examined as part of the eAPR. If they're not examined, they can't come to Canada at a later date. They're very, very strict about this. So there we go. It talks about applicants informing IRCC immediately to change its composition. And as we saw above, it occurs after, right? And you need to maintain the minimum eligibility, which is for changes in family member. The most important thing is proof of funds. Here we talk again about the settlement funds, right? So changes in settlement funds. And there we have it. All right, so I just want to make sure we talked about everything today. Let's take a look. So we have, to answer your questions, what happens if I get married after EAPR for express entry? Well, you're going to have to inform IRCC of the change in family composition. Your family member must be medically examined and examined by immigration officers, which means security checked as well. You must update IRCC and provide this form on the individual and pay the applicable fees, right? You need to make sure that you meet the minimum eligibility requirements for the program. And what's going to change for you, it's going to be the settlement funds are going to change, and you're going to have to provide proof that you continue to meet the proof of funds. What locks in at the time of my application, right? So this is a little bit harder to answer concretely, but what's going to lock in is changes, everything before, right? So your work, your age, your language scores, your family composition, these things that you got CRS points for are going to lock in, right? So in other words, if you get older, you're not going to lose points. If you change jobs, if you stop working, if you change countries, these are changes that occur after. They don't affect, for the most part, the minimum requirements, and so it locks in. You're fine with making those changes, as long as it doesn't undermine the fact that you no longer meet the minimum requirements. How can I add a spouse or child to my eAPR? Well, you can hear it talks specifically about what to do. The general idea is you update IRCC immediately, right? You complete their medical, you complete a police certificate if needed, you provide forms, you pay the fees, and you provide updated settlement funds to show that you continue to meet the minimum eligibility requirements. We have here as well, can I lose points if I get older? Right? You will not lose points. This is going to lock in, right? It's going to lock in because the change occurs after, and it's going to lock in because it's not going to affect the minimum requirements of the program eligibility. So there we have it. This answers these questions, a lot of questions that we had about what locks in, what doesn't lock in, a little bit more technical, right? There's no clear defined list of exactly what locks in because some things affect program eligibility, some changes might have happened before, but generally speaking, this is what you're going to look at. And you can also, as we talked about, refer back to the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act to look at specifically what locks in and what not. And, birthdays, we've talked about the lower CRS scores and whatnot was also talked about. So take a look at the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. It's publicly accessible and has all that information. So there we go. I see a lot of you are joining me also for live Q&A. So the first part is we answer a few questions from our link in our comments. So if you're not watching this live, if you're watching this after, please ask us a question. We'd love to look at your question and consider it for one of our themes on our live Q&A. The second part now is we're going to talk about things happening in immigration law, things to keep you updated about. And the third part, we're going to answer your live Q&A. So I see some questions here from Monsoon Winter. I see questions from Axel. Start posting your questions right now, or I'm going to be trying to answer as many as possible. Probably in the next half hour or so. So please ask your questions. If you're watching this as recorded, in the comment below there's a link. Please ask your questions. I'd love to take a look at them. It's super interesting to see what is happening in immigration law. All right, so brief update on immigration law. We're going to go over to express entry. So rounds of invitation. I talked about this earlier, right? The last one happened on Wednesday. They're happening every. Let's go here. They're happening every 2 weeks now. Right, we're taking about 2,250 individuals. This could go up to 2,500, go up to 3,000. We've seen draws of 5,000, so they can really increase it. So it's super important that you have an active, properly prepared express entry profile. We think this last score is 525. This is probably going to drop by 5 to 10 points on the next draw. If we take a look here, these are how many individuals have a score of above 500. So this is still going to take, at least another, 5 or 6 draws that happen every 2 weeks. It's going to take another 3 to 4 months for this to go down below 500, assuming we continue with the same draws, assuming that there isn't, new applicants with a score of 500. So we really think that a CRS score of under 500 is going to happen. That's going to take place after the end of this year. But as we've talked about a lot, there's also new occupation specific, NOC specific draws that might be happening, where they can actually pick individuals regardless of their CRS score based on their occupation. So there we have it for express entry on our website. We're immigration lawyers, Whole Immigration Law. Here's our website. We'd love to speak to you about your immigration application, how to properly prepare your express entry profile. Head over to our website to speak with a lawyer. You can book a consultation. So here we have my colleague Alicia. She has, I think, 18 years of experience with immigration law, super knowledgeable, and definitely a great mentor to have here at the firm. We also have Chanel. Chanel is also a Canadian immigration lawyer. She immigrated to Canada herself. She helps clients with study permits, express entry, permanent residence, you name it. And then here I am at the very bottom, or actually at the very bottom is Mark, who needs no introduction. And here I am here, so I really focus on a lot of the misrepresentations, rejected PR applications, arguing at the federal court, doing judicial reviews. This is really my specialty. To do so, I also obviously do study permits, work permits, express entry, and I'd love to speak to you about your immigration application. Je suis aussi un francophone, donc si vous voulez des services juridiques en français, n'hésitez pas de m'écrire. Ça me ferait plaisir de rencontrer avec vous pour discuter. We have here Mark at the bottom. This is Mark's immigration law firm. He has also about 17, 18 years of experience in immigration law. So there we have it. And what we do at Whole Immigration Law is that we want to work with clients to review their profiles, to provide them advice on letters of explanation, supporting documents, and make sure that they meet all the program requirements. What we do really well is that you maintain full control of your immigration application, right? We're going to help you submit it inside your online portal, right? You maintain full control of it. You're going to see all the documents. You're going to be consulted on all the letters. We're going to really work together. And that's what we call our collaborative review approach, is that we work together to create strong applications. This also avoids common mistakes that people make when not completing their forms properly, common mistakes with dates and whatnot. We have two set of eyes that review it. And again, you maintain full control. We don't take over your immigration application. We consult you. We work together to properly prepare these applications. We also, for a lot of individuals, we also have our blogs. Take a look at our blogs. We talk about, proof of funds for provincial nominee programs under Express Entry, postgraduate work permit extension for the 18 months, interim work authorization, PNP programs. We have a lot of new blogs, delayed immigration applications, writ of mandamus, what to do if your visa application is rejected, the Alberta PNP, express entry, finding your correct NOC code. So we really want to work with clients who want to do their own immigration applications, but they want to do it properly with the help of an immigration lawyer. We also have our Canadian immigration courses. So let's take a look here at the Canadian immigration courses. We have Explore the courses. So these courses are spousal sponsorships, postgraduate work permit extension course, express entry courses also taking place. So these are really, really interesting. It really allows you to view, trying to get here. So here's a structure of the course, how to complete the forms, right? Common questions, how to complete the forms, the documents, previous relationships, medical examinations. We go over all of this with you. You get all access to all the courses to prepare your own immigration application. You also get 5 hours of live Q&A with immigration lawyer Mark Holfe. So small groups, we're talking about 10 to 15 individuals, where you can ask your questions to Mark in a live Q&A, and Mark is going to talk more about the questions that you have, how to complete forms. We believe it's really good value to properly prepare your own applications. You can go ahead here and buy now, and then you're going to have access to all the videos immediately, and then you can do the live master classes with Mark. There is a link in the description, so take a look at the link. Take a look at the different courses: express entry, spousal, postgraduate work permit, labor market impact assessment. This is for employers and so on. So we're a different law firm. We do live Q&As to provide people with information. We have blogs to help individuals prepare their own immigration applications, have answers to their questions, and then we have courses where people can also take control and really dive deep into how to properly prepare your immigration application. And then obviously, if you want to speak with a lawyer, we offer to help you with your application, to complete it with you, and make sure that it's correctly submitted. Again, in your account, you maintain full control. So there we go. quick overview of who we are, what we do, and what our approach. All right. Um, we're still waiting for more instructions on how the minister is going to implement NOC specific draws or occupation specific draws. So we're still waiting for more information specifically on that. The express entry draws are continuing for federal skilled workers or Canadian experience class, and this is why it's important to have an active express entry profile. And on that note, I've been doing a lot of talking, and now it's time to take your questions. So let me just connect here my tool to take your questions. I can see them, but I just need to put them on the screen here. So just give me a moment. Great. Let's take a look at the questions. We have so many individuals joining us. Again, kind of a weird timing. I telework abroad frequently. I'm on the GMT +3 time zone. So right now I think it's about 5:30 a.m. in Toronto. Could be wrong, but it's very early in Toronto right now. It's 12:30. It's 12:30 in the GMT +3 time zone, so it's great if you're in Canada and want to speak to a lawyer in the morning. If you're abroad, it also gives you more flexibility to speak with me during the day. I'm here to help. Take a look at if you go online to our website, you can actually take a look at the time that I'm available, the different time zones and whatnot. I'm actually heading back to Canada on tomorrow. Wow, I can't believe it. On tomorrow, I'm heading back to Canada for a few weeks, and after that, I'm going to be teleworking abroad. So feel free to write to me and book a consult. I'd love to speak with you. All right, my tool is connected here. Let's start taking the questions. There we go. Monsoon Winter says, hello. Hi, Monsoon Winter. Thanks for joining. No, you've been here a lot on a lot of our shows. He says, hello, sir. Thanks for the videos. I got my PR recently. Wow, fantastic. Is there a way I can bring my sister here? She's under 18. I'm 24. Monsoon Winter. Unfortunately, unfortunately, right now, there's no immigration pathways for siblings, right? They might get your PR citizen, your PR, which is fantastic. They might get extra points for express entry, but your sister is going to have to come here on her own merit. She needs to show that she can contribute and settle by herself in Canada, right? If she's under 18, like in your case, she can maybe come here with a study permit, but generally for study permits, IRCC wants individuals that are over the age of 18. There's no requirement, but generally speaking, you're looking at a designated learning institute to get a study permit, to get your postgraduate work permit extension. So my advice for you would be probably around the age of 18 or 19 to look at whether or not she could qualify for a study permit at the age of 18. I don't think she's going to qualify for express entry, just under any of the streams. But you're probably looking at a study permit when she's closer to the age of 18. Kirti Kurala Odeji Uba Bakar says, good morning, bro. Good morning to you too. I hope you're well. Axel, also a regular on our live Q&A, says, hello, Cédric. Bonjour. CRS score 511. Still grinding in the pool. Hoping to get it done this year. Big dreams, but harsh reality by IRCC. Axel, man, I'm so sorry to hear about, a lot of people. I meet with so many individuals that have been waiting for months or even years with COVID to get into to express entry. It's super competitive right now, but guys and everyone out there, hold on, right? Like CRS score is going down. They're going to be starting to take more individuals, right? The plans and levels of immigration is only going to increase in Canada, right? If we take a look here at the wrong window here, sorry. There we go. So if we take a look here, right, so this is the information level plans for immigration, and we can see here right now that for express entry, the amount of individuals, that they're going to take for express entry is only going to increase. So we see here the federal high skilled. So this includes here at the bottom federal skilled worker program, federal skilled trades and Canadian experience class is only going to increase right now. So they're going to go from 55,000 this year to 75,000 next year to 111,000 in 2024. In other words, essentially doubling the amount of individuals they take for permanent residence in Canada. So, if you're waiting right now, you might be looking at this and saying, "Who cares? I've been waiting for years. I got 511. Come on, what do you mean? I have to wait longer." But listen, I just want to reassure you that immigration IRCC is continuing processing. They're only going to be taking more applications for express entry, and fingers crossed that it's going to come back down. I think 511 is realistic to possibly get an invitation to apply for express entry between now and the end of the year. But again, that's just a guess. Fingers crossed it works out. Axel has another question. My federal skilled worker outland principal knock is A. Can I claim points for another past 18 months work experience in a knock B position, another company in another department in the same company? Yeah, so you absolutely can, right? So the first thing you need to do is you need to meet the eligibility for the federal skilled worker program. Oh, my screen is, there we go. So you need to meet the eligibility for the federal skilled worker program. So the minimum eligibility is 1 year continuous work experience in the knock in the same knock. So if you're working at work essentially in the same job for 1 year continuous, has to be paid. There's other requirements, right? There's other requirements, but generally speaking, once you have this 1 year, you meet the minimum eligibility requirements. And then, yeah, if you have another knock or another position and whatnot, you're able to claim it for points, but it has to be, right, you have to meet the eligibility. We can take a look here at the ministerial instructions, right? So this is the nitty-gritty of how the minister calculates the points. And if we go to foreign work experience, we're going to head down here. So this is combination. We don't want combination. There we go. So section 25, we're talking about how the points are calculated, right? So for section, so here it's acquired in a skill knock O, A, or B. It's full time or the equivalent of full time, right? Acquired in the last 10 years, you're paid by wages or a commission, right? So these are important requirements that you must meet. There's other requirements here, how it deals with work in excess. What does full-time mean? So take a look at these. But in general, yeah, it's allowed, but you must meet the minimum eligibility requirements. You must meet the minimum eligibility requirements. There's points for combination and whatnot. The easiest way right now for individuals to improve their CRS score, which is a question that we get quite often, is most likely going to be to improve your language score. So, you can talk about getting a provincial nominee program and getting 600 points. That it might take a few months to actually get the endorsement, right? You talk about getting a labor market impact assessment for an extra 50 points. That can take, again, another 3, 4, 5 months to apply, get the LMIA and whatnot. We also talk about learning French, right? You can get up to 50, you can get more than 50 points if you speak French. But really, for most individuals, the easiest way to get more points is going to be to increase your language score. So your first language proficiency, right? So there's 4 different language proficiencies that you get points for: speaking, writing, listening, and reading. Speaking, writing, listening, reading. Yeah, there we go. And you get different points based on how you're assessed, right? So if right now if you have a 6, right, and you're able to get a 9, you could easily see here how you'd be able to get more points for your first language. And then we talk about sometimes we have combination, right? So you have a combination of level of education and official language proficiency would get you even more points, right? So here, if you have your language is assessed at 7 or higher in all official languages, you can get additional points, right? If you have a 9 in all language skills, reading, writing, listening, speaking, you're going to get 50 extra points. So this is really could be the easiest way to get that extra 10, the extra 20 points to improve your language score. It's only going to have a good return on investment, right? You're better speaking, better writing. It's only going to give you better job opportunities, but it's also going to give you more CRS points. Again, you're going to get points just for the language, for your first language, if we can find it again. Yeah, so first language proficiency, and then you're also going to get points for the combination of education and official language, and then foreign work experience and official language. So there's a lot of points up for grab. If you have a 7 in one category, try to get a 7 in all of them. If you have 8s and 9s, try to get 9 in all the categories. You're only going to get more points. This can be improved if you work really hard within, let's say, a month or two to be able to go from an 8 to a 9. It's very, very possible. All right, let's keep on going. A cup of Vimshi by Vishali says, Hi Cédric, hope you're doing well. My CRS score is 471. As per the numbers and trends, I am hoping to get an invitation by the end of December. What do you think? Well, I don't want to repeat myself. I know this feedback that we've gotten is not to repeat ourselves too much, but as we've talked about, I really think that we're still looking at a CRS score of above 500 until the end of the year. This is based on previous draws, how many people they're taking, and the frequency. So all I can tell you is, listen, fingers crossed. I hope everyone who qualifies for Express Entry, that can contribute to Canada, which is true with the score of 470, are able to come to Canada as permanent residents. We want to help you meet your immigration goals and doing that. But realistically, I think we're still going to look at above 500, maybe 490 until the end of the year. So great time to, like I talked about, improve your language score, right? Making sure that your language tests are valid up until the moment of your eAPR. You need to make sure that your educational credential assessment expires every 5 years. Make sure that's up to date. Start speaking with your employer right now. How can I get these reference letters, right? How can you get those reference letters? I need to prove that I have these main duties for the NOC. Let's start right now to make sure you have the documents. This is a really important, I can't say it's the main reason why Express Entry applicants are rejected, but I can definitely let you know that this is an important reason why Express Entry is rejected, is because people cannot prove the work experience. They just submit like the smallest letter they can find. It's half a page. It contains barely any information. No, provide as much information as you can, your contracts, your pay stubs, the reference letters, make sure that all the requirements are met. Do this right now. So when you get your invitation to apply, Vashali, when you get your invitation to apply, everything is ready to go. You submit your documents, it's done, right? So this is what you can do right now to make sure that everything is ready for your Express Entry. Axel says 1131 for in Paris. Axel says it's an asset for French-speaking lawyers, especially in Canada outside Quebec. Good find by Mark to have you in this team. Oh, thank you, Axel. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I grew up in Ottawa, which is outside Quebec, and we only focus on immigration outside Quebec. So, donc, si vous voulez immigrer au Canada, à l'extérieur du Québec, vous pouvez obtenir des points supplémentaires pour le français, mais aussi il y a plusieurs programmes spécialement pour vous en tant que francophone. Donc, en tant que francophone, si on regarde brièvement au PNP sur l'Ontario, so in short, it's just in English before I talk more in French, but in short, I'm just saying how for French speakers, there's also some unique programs that you might qualify for. So if we look at the Ontario PNP, which is called the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, there's also a stream for French speakers, if we can find it. I might have skimmed over. Yeah, there we go. The French speaking skilled worker stream. Donc, si vous êtes un francophone et vous avez un certain montant d'expérience professionnelle, mais aussi un certain niveau d'expérience, d'éducation, scolarité, exactement. Donc, un baccalauréat, une maîtrise ou un doctorat canadien. Vous pouvez qualifier pour un programme pour immigrer au Canada, en Ontario, avec un PNP qui a été conçu spécialement pour attirer des francophones qui veulent habiter à l'extérieur du Québec. Donc, c'est vraiment un programme intéressant. Les anglophones ne qualifient pas pour ce programme. So, essentially, this is a PNP program for French-speaking individuals who want to immigrate to Canada outside of Ontario. It's only for French-speaking individuals. You're going to have to prove, this is all in French again, but let's switch back to English. You're going to have to prove here that you have your language score, so you need to at least have a CLB level 7 or higher in French to be considered. And you must also read, write, and speak English at a CLB level 6. So these are bilingual individuals who primary language is French, who want to come to Canada to immigrate. It's a PNP program specifically for those who intend to live in Ontario and speak French. So we're actually going to be developing more content for French speakers. Right now, we're focusing a lot on rejected applications. Well, I'm focusing a lot on getting blogs and content on rejected applications. I used to be a member of the Immigration Refugee Board. I used to be a law clerk at the federal court. I've decided a lot of cases for the United Nations as it relates to refugees and whatnot. So my experience is really into decision making, rejected applications, litigation, and I want to make sure that I share my experiences in my blogs to be able to help as many individuals. And then number two priority for me is developing French content. So more to come for French speakers. A lot of content right now already being published for delayed applications, federal court stuff, and whatnot. So there we have it. And says, hi Cédric, thanks for your update yesterday on the NOC 2021. If my NOC is NOC B, that's considered tier 3, which can still be considered to be drawn. Oh, hey, hands go. Thank you so much for your wonderful comment. You know, we work hard. This was a pre-recorded video that Chanel and I did, and let's go to it. So if you look on our videos here, you're gonna see that we did a quick YouTube video on the NOC changes that are happening. So in short, there's also a blog. So you can look at the video. You can also look at our blog. And let's go to the blog. I think our blog was recently updated. Yeah, so there we go. So important changes coming to Express Entry November 22, new occupation eligibility, NOC 2021, and tier list. So hands go, the short answer is yes. We're still waiting for the final details, but the short answer is yes. What's considered to be a skill B is now going to be under a tier 2 or a tier 3. And so they're going to change from skill OAB. They're going to talk about tier O 1, 2, 3. And these are going to be considered good for Express Entry. And we talked about this a little bit in some videos, but here is what we believe are going to become the most common changes that we expect. Again, we're still waiting for the final list, but this is what we expect. So nurse aides, so personal support workers are going to qualify for Express Entry, right? If you're a bus, subway operator, if you're a transport truck driver, you're going to be qualifying under a tier 3, which is going to be qualifying work experience for Express Entry. So this is fantastic news. If you're an aircraft assembler, repairer, pest control, so take a look here to see what new professions are going to qualify for Express Entry. The short answer is yes. NOC B is going to be considered tier 3. There's going to be some slight changes with the NOCs, right? Some occupations are going to become ineligible. So take a look here. But generally speaking, it's good news. More people will qualify for Express Entry. More people are going to be able to come to Canada to help work. She says, my NOC code 2151, is it popular in any province? You know, the PNP programs, right? We have 10 provinces. We have 10 PNP programs. And in each province, they have 3 or 4 programs, if not more. So we're talking about, you're asking me, does my NOC qualify for like 65 immigration programs? The short answer is, I don't know, to be honest. Let's take a look at the PNP Alberta. You know, let's just pick up, my colleague Chanel recently wrote a blog on our website about the PNP for BC. There's also one on Alberta. Let's go take a look. So here, this is Alberta, and within Alberta, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 streams. But let's take a look at the Alberta Express Entry stream, right? We're going to have ineligible occupations, so occupations that if you have the NOC, they don't even want you to apply. And then you have also in demand. Some of them have in demand, meaning that they really want you to apply if you have it in demand. But it's really going to come down to, for you to look at the websites and look as to whether or not, you know, your occupation is in the ineligible occupation, right? We talked about this, or if there's a high volume of submissions across all AAIP streams. So again, something we'd love to assist you with is looking at the various PNP programs to understand which one you qualify under. So here it talks about eligible applicants, but for the purpose, you know, we're just trying to narrow down the question. Here's a list of ineligible occupations. So 2151 is we're good. It's I don't see it here. Do maybe a quick Control F. Yeah, so it's not popping up. So you're not ineligible for for the PNP in Alberta. So the next question we have to figure out is, okay, is there a lot of individuals applying to, because we saw, right, second criteria is a high volume of submissions. To be honest, I don't think there's a lot of 2251s. I could be wrong. But I think that this is quite a unique NOC that people are architectural technologists. So I don't think there's a high volume of submissions, but again, we don't actually know, right? This is for Alberta. We can also do BC, PNP. Let's go take a look here. Uh, Again, the general idea is they're gonna have a list of ineligible occupations. They might also have a list of high demand ones, um, right? So they go priority occupations. So here we talk about tech, healthcare, or childcare. So you don't have any of those. Let's go take a look at the other. Oops, the other priority occupations. If you're a veterinarian or an animal health technologist. So yeah, so it's not a priority occupation for the PNP and BC, but it doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean that you can't apply for the priority occupation, right? Um, This is really just one of the specific streams. You might still qualify for PNP in BC under another stream. Again, there's so many PNP programs, it's hard to just say yes or no. Again, about 40, I'd say easily about 40 to 50 different programs under PNP. All right, so there we have it. Hansigo says another question. I've been seeing in groups chats you can manipulate the visa office country can process your application by declaring you live in a certain country. Isn't that a misrepresentation? Yeah, Hansgo, it absolutely is. So you have to provide all the information that is accurate when you create your express entry profile, when you have a study permit, when you have a work permit application. And it's very possible that IRCC may ask for proof of residence, right? So it might have worked for someone, it might have worked for one or two individuals. However, it's still not allowed, right? They can still, in a year or two, they can still reassess the applications, ask for proof they live at the address. They can still find they committed misrepresentation, right? If you're, for example, you have a parent in two different countries and you live inside one country, right? But you're also studying in another country and you want to come to Canada, well, then we get more of a situation of where is your actual residence, right? And I think that people in that case, um, depending on where their residence is, they might be able to apply in another country if they truly live in that country. But generally speaking, we do not recommend this approach. It can be a misrepresentation if you say you live in a country when you actually don't. And IRCC is completely allowed to ask you for proof of residence, and if you're unable to provide it, hit you with a 5-year ban of misrepresentation. So listen, everyone is trying to find a way to improve their CRS score quickly. Everyone's trying to find a way to come to Canada, to have everything processed as quickly as possible. Do not do it properly, guys. Don't look for shortcuts. Don't do anything illegal. It's only going to come back to affect you, right? You might have an individual or two that it worked last month. How is it going to work in 6 months? Are they going to be ineligible later on? Is everything going to be declared invalid and they're going to have to leave Canada, right? It can have really, really big impact, and I definitely don't recommend this approach. I don't recommend it at all. Speaking about delayed applications, if you head on over to our website, I have a blog about delayed immigration applications and the writ of mandamus. And in short, what this is that individuals, if you have like a seriously delayed immigration application, like something's supposed to take 3 months and now we're at 5, 6, or 7 months, you are able to go to the federal court and actually seek an order from a judge to force IRCC to render a decision on your application. This is called a writ of mandamus. And what this does is that it's a legal process. You have to go to federal court and whatnot to explain why there's an unreasonable delay. IRCC is allowed to oppose it, and you're going to be arguing as to whether or not it's appropriate. But long story short, it starts with a letter of demand that you send to Department of Justice saying, listen, we're going to go to federal court in a month or in a few weeks if you don't continue processing of this file, right? We tell them, let's go, start processing it. The second step, if they ignore it, if you haven't started to process your application, is going to be to file an application for leave and judicial review at the federal court. I talk more about the legal process here. I'm not going to go too much into it. It's a super detailed blog that I wrote, but take a look at it, and it could be an option if you want to get IRCC to render a decision because your application has been seriously delayed. This is a legal, valid option to do it. Changing countries, right? Saying you live in another country when you actually don't is a misrepresentation, and I definitely don't recommend it. How long does it take to get your PR after medical examination? Faisal, this is really dependent on the visa office. We usually say anywhere from 2 to 3 months after the medical examination. It depends on the background security check. It depends on the passport request, how long it's taking them to send it out. There's a lot of unknown factors, but generally speaking, we think it's usually about, well, not we think, in our experience, it's anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 months, but it's highly dependent on the visa office, how busy they are, and your individual case, background, security check, previous travel, previous residence in another country, more than one citizenship. These are all that can all impact the processing time after the medical examination. Does PNP guarantee permanent residence? And how long is the process? It seems to be taking years. So PNP is going to give you 600 additional points. This is on top of the points that you're going to get for your human skill capital and all the other points, right? So if, for example, right now, your CRS score is, let's say your CRS score is something like, 450, 400, 440, 430, right? You're even before COVID, right? The invitations before COVID were still, oops, we're going a little bit too far back. Before COVID, it was still about, 450, 440, but recently in like 2018, right, we're going closer to 450, and after 2019, before COVID, it was closer there, go 460, 470, right? So this is without a PNP. With a PNP, you get an additional 600 points, so you're going to get to like 1,059 points, right? And the last draw, as we saw, the last draw here was 525. So you're not guaranteed a draw, right? You might not get the PNP, you might not get your endorsement letter. There might be other issues with your application, but generally speaking, with a PNP, you're going to get your extra 600 points, and it's going to bring you to like 1,000 or 1,200. And this is what we see here. These 538 individuals are most likely. Well, I mean, this is really hard to get over 600 based on just your human score. So, in fact, I don't even think you can go over 600. Just on your human score. So these are individuals with PNP applications who have been successful. They have a very high score, and they were invited in the draw that happened August 17th. So you get your PNP nomination, it updates your Express Entry profile, and within the next draw, you are expected to receive an invitation to apply. That's correct, but it doesn't guarantee permanent residence. There's other things your application could be rejected on: proof of funds, NOC codes, passports, and whatnot. So take a look. So, but it's definitely a very good chance that you're going to receive an invitation to apply. Michelle says, I already have, so we talked about how to increase your CRS score. He already has a language score of 9. He's already obtained reference letters for past employers, hoping for the best, trying to learn French too. Well, congrats. Listen, this is fingers crossed that it all works out, and that, with 511, I think was your score 511? Yeah, 471. Yeah, so you can look at LMIE job-based offer, you can look at a PNP, you can look at improving your French. This is going to be the easiest way to get points. There's also other immigration programs, right? So right now we're just talking about Express Entry. You can look, for example, at the Atlantic Immigration Program. You can look at PNPs. These are all valid options to get permanent residence inside Canada. Joyce says, my question is, what are offices of immigration saying concerning undocumented immigrant status and those of out status and refugees claimants working in healthcare mentioned in the mandate? So Joyce, I'm sorry, but I don't fully understand your question. There's a lot of ways I could answer this. I mean, undocumented immigrant status, how long, like, there are humanitarian and compassion applications in some cases. There was a program in Toronto that for construction workers before COVID. Is this going to come out again? Why are you undocumented? Can you restore your status? Can you do an application for judicial review? If you're a refugee claimant, right? So you're still not a refugee. You don't have your refugee status. You're working in healthcare. I mean, unfortunately, I can't answer this. It's a very broad question. Cynthia says, hi Cédric, CRS score 494. Is there any chance IT this year? Maybe, probably towards the end of the year. Even also eligible for Francophone Mobility Program. Could you please explain the concept of job offer under that program? So let's go take a look. Francophone Mobilité Program. Right, so the Francophone Mobilité Program is one LMIA exempt work permit stream. So when we talk about job offers, we focus a lot. I mean, it's almost for a lot of individuals, you need to get a LMIA labor market impact assessment. In some cases, individuals are actually exempt from this. So exemptions from an LMIA, the most common ones, if we scroll here to the bottom, are spouses and common law workers of skilled workers, right? When someone gets your when someone gets you're a spouse of a skilled worker, you can get an open work permit without an LMIA, right? Same thing for full-time students. If you're married or in a common law relationship with someone that's a full-time student, you're LMIA exempt. You get an open work permit, right? So these are the most common open work permits. There's also this whole list here, right? Refugee claimants, person with unenforceable removal orders, and the list essentially goes on. But if we go back here, right, so International Mobility Program is one of the LMIA exemptions, which means that you do not need an LMIA to be employed by a employer. So this is a really big benefit. It allows you to come to Canada, start working without an LMIA if you meet these requirements. So here what I'd encourage you to do, Shintan is actually going to be look at this into more detail. You can also book a consultation. I'd be happy to speak to you about this more in detail. Generally speaking, you need to be satisfied that you're going to work outside of Quebec and you're qualified to work in NOC O, A, or B. And you're also going to need to prove that you are able to demonstrate your French language. So you should demonstrate that you have a CLB level 7 or higher in French to be able to work in the French. So you don't have to actually work in French, right? You can work in an English position outside Quebec. That's fine, but you need to be able to the officer should be satisfied the foreign national's habitual language of daily use is French. However, the language of work does not have to be French. So there we have it. So there's an employer compliance fee. So the employer essentially, kind of like an employer-driven process, but kind of really simple for them, right? They're going to pay an employer compliance fee, right? They're going to provide you with a job offer, and it has to be a valid job offer. So they have to pay the employer compliance fee through this, and there's other requirements to submit a job offer. Let's take a look here. So this is again more instructions for visa officers, immigration officers, but this is going to be a good point that talks about what is needed and what are the requirements in terms of international mobility program French. There's also a program page I'm trying to find. So there we go. So this is a program page that talks to you more broadly about the initiative and the program and how it works. And it also talks about how you see, so you don't need a labor market impact assessment, but you must submit the offer of employment through an employer portal. Um, Again, more about the program policies, and then there we go. So you can make this can also be used for express entry candidates, but there's very specific requirements that need to be made. So there we go. It's hard to answer your question about what exactly like eligible for this program, but as we talked about, NOC O, A, or B, outside of Quebec, right? CLB level 7, habitual language of French, and then for the job offer, the employer compliance fee submitted through the offer of employment portal. Generally speaking, if you speak French and your habitual language is French, this is a very valid way to come to Canada and get some work experience without having to go through the LMIE process. Actually, another question: if we talk about targeted draws, occupation targeted means NOC or occupation as in the whole, including NOCs of that occupation. We don't know. I assume it's going to be primary NOC occupation, but primary NOC or the NOC with the most years of experience. But we actually don't know. We're really waiting to find out for more details on this. It says, thank you for your efforts. Highly appreciate taking the time to answer all the questions in detail. My pleasure. And then Hansgo says, thanks, Cédric, for answering my questions. Thank you for doing a live stream at this hour. Really appreciate it. Well, there we go, guys. This is going to conclude our 1 hour live Q&A. Again, if you have questions, go in the comments below. My pleasure to answer them. There's going to be a link. You're going to enter. Okay, I can actually show you. There's going to be a link where you can ask a question. We're going to be looking at all the questions and we're going to make a theme out of that question. So we're going to spend 15-20 minutes talking about this question on our live Q&A at the very beginning. So please ask those questions. I'd love to take a look at them. And then the second thing that we do is we take our live questions at the very end. So here we go. So so at the very bottom of our video, right? So we have live Q&A, click here, and it's going to bring you to this page. And so you can enter your name, you can enter your email, the country where you live, and we want to know a little bit more about you, if whether you're a temporary foreign worker, international student, and then you can write your question here. And I can't show you the question page because we do have like the question with the personal information right beside it, but we do get a lot of questions so far, and we'd love to go through them to look at what is in trend right now. How can we be most helpful? How can we answer the questions for the most people? If you want to speak with me as well, take a look here at our website. Here's more about me, here about my experiences, my law degrees, my licenses, who I am, what I do. Take a look on our website. More links here at the bottom in terms to book an appointment. And we also have here the link for our masterclass. This is going to bring you straight to our Canadian Immigration Institute. And here we have our courses at the very top here. So take a look at this page if you want to do a course if you want to do a course. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. I'm going to be joining you again next Tuesday at around the same time, around 11 a.m. GMT plus 3, which is 9 a.m. in London, UK, which is like 4 a.m. in Toronto time. Again, I telework abroad a lot, which is fantastic for clients. I can meet with you during the day, in the morning, in the evening. And if you're inside Canada and you want to be your freshest and most focused when you're dealing with an immigration lawyer, I'm available early mornings, right? So because of the way the hour difference works, I'm available 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., you name it. I'm available because I telework. I'm going back to Canada for a few weeks now, but I hope to see you soon, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.